Hello Tubesters, it's Gav and welcome to another one of my videos. Today we're looking at this Tamiya 1 in 35 scale Italian armoured officer for the North Africa campaign in World War II. Very nice figure. I've spoilt it slightly with, as usual, rushing the cleanup, and I overdid some of the lining out with a scalpel blade. What I've done, and I've just noticed there's a slight, I think that's just a shadow. These lines along here, where the jacket was put up and sewn up, obviously in the factory, they weren't on. They were on the artwork, but they weren't on the figure. So I went along, but with a scalpel blade, and I went a bit too deep really, and that spoilt it a bit. There's a very tiny little mould line under the pocket, and I just didn't have the heart to take it back now. And there was a tiny little one here, and I'd put my magnifiers on, and not until, but I didn't do them when I was cleaning it. And what I should have done was gone over, even if I wasn't wearing my magnifiers, go around the entire figure once I'd cleaned it, and just triple checked. But I was not rushing for any real reason. I mean, this isn't like I'm selling it or anything. It's just I wanted to get on with the painting, and it spoilt it really. But never mind. The binoculars, the strap that I made is just a bit too small, as I've said before. But we live and learn. I haven't put any dust over any of the boots and the gaiters, just because I wasn't sure what I'd be doing with the Semoventi tank that he'll be stood next to. But on the whole, I've really enjoyed it. I've given it the darker yellow. I don't know if they came out of the factory as a darker and a lighter yellow, or if they just faded under the North African sun. But I went with some reenactors stuff, and from the what Tamiya was showing, and I've just gone for the darker yellow, with a light greeny blue shirt on underneath, which you can hardly see anyway. Goggles are probably over scale really, which is a bit disappointing, but never mind. I could have thinned them down in retrospect at least, even if I couldn't obviously make them smaller. But they are what they are. As I say, I've added the strap, which again probably should have done it with pie foil, or some very thin plastic car, which I've got. I've gone up one size, and that's probably a bit too thick really. But never mind. Obviously, as you can see, the collar dogs, as we'd call them in the army, British Army. So the red flashes you see on his collars, they've just been painted on by me. For the officers, other ranks, I think had a silver star. I think it's a Star of Savoy, and the officers, I believe, had the gold. I've just put a very light yellow. I've used, you could call, non-metallic rather than metallic paint, just because of the amount that I was doing. The goggles themselves are like a very shiny type of metal. You can't really see the rank tabs that well. There wasn't a lot of surface area to do with a paintbrush, but they're on there. I think he's a Capitano. Buttons, there were several types that you could do, and I've gone for the like a dark brown enamelled, something like that anyway. I don't think they were like Bakelite. I think they were could be Bakelite. That's about it really. It's not, obviously it's a fairly simple officer to do. Goggles, I'm not a big fan of these where they paint them blue, or they paint them dark, or paint them white. I just going from the busts that I occasionally paint, and I've had a couple with goggles on. You can see through goggles really, apart from where the sun glints on them. So I obviously painted my metal around first, although I didn't do the brightest greys, and whites. I just did a base coat round to show where the metal was. I then went round with English uniform around the inside edge to give it a darker shadow area. Then the a lighter colour of the uniform, and then I put a white paint on, just a couple of dots of white paint as a reflection of the sun on the goggles. So for me, they don't need a varnish. They don't need a if you're going to use resin, anything like that. For me, that's how I've done them. So yeah, really nice figure. I'll do the other figure at some point after I've done the Semoventi, which I'll just throw up a video in a bit, and I'll just have the two figures. As I say, the other two are true 1970s figures, which I didn't really understand at the time. I don't know why, but they really are. I don't know if I can. No, I can't reach it. But they really are way out of scale for the Semoventi itself. So yeah, lovely figure, very enjoyable. I think it shows you can have a fairly decent figure, that you don't have to always buy a resin figure. You could get Tamiya, a box of Tamiya, especially if they're the later ones. Obviously, some of the very, very early ones I used to stick together as a kid, they're probably the same scale and type as the two figures that I'm not going to use. But these later ones, and this isn't a particularly late version. I can't remember when it was done, but it's still, really nice face on it as well. So thanks for stopping by and taking a look. Just thought I'd throw this up. Now he's done. There's going to be no clear coat on top of this, and it's only going to be on display with the Semoventi. So and then what I normally do is, when I don't have a lot of room to display kits, I usually keep them for about 6 months, sometimes longer, and then I'll rip off any bits I want to save for my spares, and then I'll throw it away. But the figures get wrapped up, and if there's a chance I can use them in another diorama or something like that, I do. So you look after yourselves. Thanks for stopping by and taking a look. If you want to see how far I've got in the Semoventi, just please follow on to the next video. Look after yourselves and have a good weekend.